So I graduated from college in 2016, and my last year of college, I was applying for a fellowship called a Watson Fellowship, where you propose any project you want with a set of countries around a theme, but it's the theme that's sort of most important or most meaningful to you. The question you ask yourself when you're planning is, if I could go anywhere and money wasn't a barrier, what would I do? And my answer was I would live with Buddhist nuns, which was a little confusing to some of my classmates. But in the end, I did get the fellowship, and my project was called Robes for the Modern Woman, Vowed Women and Community Strength. And I left the US in July of 2016 and traveled for 377 days through 7 countries. So I began in India, then Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Australia, Hong Kong, and Japan. And it ended up not just being Buddhist monasteries. I also spent time with vowed women in Jainism and Catholicism, and a few charitable organizations like nonprofits, being part of their work or their offices or really whatever was happening. And this was not research. I wasn't writing a paper. It wasn't sort of a parallel comparison or very structured. I didn't have surveys or interviews or anything. It was really just about learning. I was just there to learn as much as I could. And you're really bound to learn something anywhere you go. So I was just anything that people wanted to teach me, I wanted to learn. There were definitely some challenges. I stood out just about everywhere I went. I'm a lot taller than anyone and have a lot lighter skin and hair, and was about the only foreigner in most of the communities I was staying with. And that also meant the only person who didn't speak the local language. But because this was the project that had meant so much to me, that doesn't mean it's easy, but it makes just about anything manageable. And especially if you're ready to laugh at yourself and how much of the time you're confused and don't know what people are talking about or asking you to do. But I'm a believer in immersive learning. So just whatever's happening, dive right in, whether that was building an Adobe house or monastic discipline and practice, or going to mass for the first time, or sleeping on a marble floor. And everywhere I went, I was just amazed because I was constantly treated with so much kindness and patience and generosity, not just in the material sense, but generosity of time, and people really wanting to teach me, wanting to share their beliefs and their practices that mean so much to them and that they're dedicating their lives to. And it taught me a lot that you really can connect beyond language. And I'm a big believer in nonverbal humor also. And that it was such an honor to hear all these different stories and see all these different ways of living. And in some places I was much younger than everyone, and in some places I was quite a bit older, and some of the monastics I was with sort of couldn't figure out how I'd reached 23 and hadn't either gotten married or taken robes. I was sort of and so everywhere I went, it was really just that what's shared was so much more important than what was different, and the values that each religion taught me, so much of them are shared. And it's really just people trying to do their best and having a lot of faith, and faith that they can do good for their community and those around them. And it's really just that everywhere I went, people are people, for the most part, just doing our best.
Can you tell us a story from one place you went?
I can tell a story from Cambodia. There's a peace walk that began in 1992, returning Buddhism to Cambodia, and began as a walk for refugees who had been, after years and years of war, there were huge refugee camps on the Thai border, And so the most senior monk in Cambodia began a peace walk along with a Jesuit priest and a Jewish woman from New York. They all together began this peace walk where they would walk from the refugee camps on the Thai border all the way across Cambodia to the capital city. And for several years, there was still fighting going on, and they would walk through areas where there were active battles. But because they were walking peacefully, and it was monks and nuns and lay people just walking together, and in each village, they would give water blessings, which are a very important thing in Cambodia. And people who hadn't been around Buddhist monastics, like Cambodia is a Buddhist country, but during the wars, religion was almost wiped out. And so this huge relief for so many people, and this really joyful thing to see this long parade of monks in their orange robes and nuns who are often in white robes coming to the village and giving blessings and giving teachings and staying at the temple. And so that tradition continues today, but it's not as much about crossing Cambodia anymore. But the monks, most of them are young who do this walk, and so they'll go and teach at schools. They'll give a session where they cover everything, from the basic precepts of Buddhism to the role of monks to hand washing and talking to your parents respectfully. They gather all the kids outside the school and talk about everything, and then continue walking and giving blessings. And everyone knows that the walk is coming, so every single family in the village will be outside their house waiting. And the monks don't accept any money, any offerings. They just accept maybe a bottle of water because it's very, very hot. And you see people carrying their grandparents out to receive the blessings, and people holding their babies, and the babies are confused and crying because there's water being dumped on them. But it's a very, it's just a beautiful thing to see.